Welcome to this session of your ESSDACK Minutes. In today's session, we're going to discuss the governance structure of ESSDACK.
And actually, I'm really excited, Mike, to have this chance to talk with you a little bit about the governance structure, because I have to tell you, 13 years ago when I was first employed by ESSDACK, I was like, holy cow, this is like really convoluted. So I might just start and ask you a little bit. I know we have multiple levels of input into the decisions that are made in this organization. And one of those, obviously, is the formal board itself. So
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the role of the board and how that board is, who's deciding? How do we know who's going to be on that board?
The first structure, the ultimate governing board, is the board of directors. Those board of directors are members from local school boards. So they're elected by the communities, placed on the local school board, and then when that school board's turn comes up to represent ESSDACK, then the superintendents get together and they identify board members who they believe will serve the ESSDACK board well, and then they're brought on as the new board members of ESSDACK.
Now, obviously, not every district has a board member serving at one time, or you'd have a huge board coming together. So how is it that you know what districts are going, whose turn it is, I guess, is the best question.
Well, it's actually an interesting process in that in the early days we arranged the districts in clusters, and so in each cluster there might be 5 or 6 districts that were geographically oriented together, and they were also similar in size based on student body count. As we've grown to 56 entities now, that cluster arrangement remains, but it also makes it a little more difficult to cycle through by alphabetical order whose turn it is to serve on the board, because a board member from school X in cluster 1 might serve for 4 years, and then that cluster never gets to serve again for another 30 years because there might be 7 or 8 districts in there.
Sure.
So our new structure of selecting that board member is to bring the superintendents together from each cluster and have them discuss the board members they all have that they believe would serve well on the ESSDACK board. And then once they all agree, okay, let's take board member XYZ from McPherson, then that board member contacts us, and then we go through a process of putting them on the board.
So really, rather than just trying to rotate through a cycle,
Right.
you're saying, let's look and see who might be most appropriate for this, because certainly ESSDACK is a different animal
That's right.
than
That's
school
right.
districts out there. So they're the formal decision-making
That's right.
body for this board, and they work pretty much like a school board at a
Yes.
traditional school district.
Yes, that's correct. They are the formal governing legal body of ESSDACK, and they work very much like a normal local school board.
Okay.
Now, beyond that school board or board of directors at ESSDACK, there's 2 other groups that act in a major role in advisory in nature, and that's a group of 7 superintendents, one from each of those 7 clusters that exist. They're called the Executive Council, and they meet with me to help set agendas, drive direction, discuss new projects and policies and that kind of stuff. But the board ultimately is in charge of approving those and setting that and governing all of those things.
So the executive council actually just helps you keep a pulse on what the superintendents across the consortium are thinking and feeling and needing.
That's correct. And to add to that, we also have then a monthly meeting of all of the superintendents coming together, which we call our Superintendent's Council. And they, in turn, at that meeting, share things, and we have typical business meetings that exchange ideas and direction. And so we really have a 3-layered approach to governance, but that top layer is the board of directors. So
Yeah, that helps tremendously. Thank you for spending a little time and clarifying that for us.
well, thank you for joining us in this session of your ESSDACK Minutes.